What's been reported is that Israel attacked Iran in 3 waves. The first took out air defences in Syria and Iraq to clear the way for other waves of strikes. Then Iranian defences were targeted, and then Iranian long-range missile manufacturing sites were struck. Apparently around 20 targets were struck in 3 Iranian provinces, one site near the capital, Tehran. The Iranian government has described the damage as limited, but that's unlikely to be true. We've seen just how strong the Israeli Air Force is. We've seen how high their capabilities are. And there's no reason Israel wouldn't have taken an opportunity to diminish Iran's military capacity in some way. Nevertheless, Israel says its action is over, and it looks like Iran is doing what Israel and the United States have urged it to do, which is take this hit and walk away. Iranian officials, the kind of language they're using suggests they're looking for a way to avoid having to retaliate and continue this escalatory cycle. They say that while they're prepared to defend Iran, in all cases, Iran takes seriously its broader responsibilities towards peace and security in the region. That's a very de-escalatory statement, and it suggests that Iran is looking for a way out of this. But the fact that this round is over doesn't necessarily leave the region any safer. Iran and Israel are now the closest they have ever been to all-out war. And of course, the fighting is continuing, and in some elements is worse than ever in Gaza and in Lebanon, where Iran has a very direct interest and long-term investment. That means these two enemies could likely find a new reason to strike each other again soon.
That's Eric Torchek reporting there. Javed Ali is a national security expert at the University of Michigan. We spoke to him earlier, and he says Israel's attack on Iran was controlled and specific.
From what the Israeli military has revealed, and to a degree the Iranian government, that this was a significant response by Israel, but also very calibrated and deliberate, and appears not to have been designed to overly escalate the already fragile relationship between Iran and Israel. So I know there's a lot to unpack there, but that's probably the best judgment I could give on the situation right now.
Well, let's unpack some of that. The US has been urging Israel not to strike Iranian nuclear or oil facilities. How significant is it that these strikes, it seems, were not carried out on those sites, but on what Israel called the precise strikes on military targets?
Right. So going back now a couple of weeks, there was a lot of media reporting with conversations or alleged conversations between President Biden and Prime Minister Netanyahu, where President Biden was firmly insisting that Israel had a right to respond to Iran's attacks, ballistic missile attacks from early October. But at the same time, President Biden and other senior White House officials did not want that response from Israel to hit oil and gas production facilities or storage facilities or even nuclear energy and power facilities in Iran, because that would have triggered another round of escalation and retaliation from Iran. So that message appears to have sort of made its impact with Israel. And as you mentioned, the targets that were hit apparently were more focused on drone and ballistic missile production or storage or launch sites, and air defense capabilities or parts of Iran and Syria's air defense network as well.
Iran has played down the impact of these strikes. Is that a way of them continuing to save face, but also stop this tit for tat from continuing?
Iran's message, at least as of today, has been probably defiant and dismissive at the same time. And where there was a statement from the Iranian foreign minister today where that statement said that Iran has a right to defend itself. But if you also read sort of the second part of that statement, it basically infers that Iran, at least at the moment, is not trying to escalate beyond things over the last 24 hours and not retaliate to what Israel did against it. So yes, saving face, and projecting strength, even though obviously Iran's air defense network was exploited and breached, and parts of it have probably been significantly damaged, if not destroyed, which opens up the possibility for follow-on Israeli attacks if things spiral out of control again.
So then what do you expect from both Israel and Iran next?
So as I wrote in the piece, I expect right now, at least for the next few days, that both sides are going to go back to their respective corners using that boxing analogy. Israel has hit Iran pretty hard, but not so hard as to potentially trigger another round of retaliation. And the Iranians have, I think at this point, based on the messaging they're sending, have chosen to just accept what's happened, and not try to launch another reprisal attack. But at the same time, despite if that's an accurate assessment of where Iran and Israel may be in terms of going back to their respective corners using that analogy, Israel is still fighting now two wars, one against Hamas in the Gaza Strip and the other against Hezbollah to the north, which has only been going on for the past couple months. And both of those groups are part of Iran's axis of resistance. So it doesn't mean that peace is breaking out in the region, doesn't mean there's going to be ceasefires anytime soon. I just think it means that the potential for more direct confrontation between Iran and Israel is minimized, at least for now.
And what does that mean for the broader regional conflict?
Well, I think things are still very sort of dicey and fragile, as I mentioned before, because of the situation on the ground in the Gaza Strip. All of Israel's objectives have not been met because they're still conducting daily operations, and we are all seeing the results of what's happening on the ground. The hostages, the remaining number of hostages have not yet been returned or rescued. There are still probably thousands of Hamas fighters underneath this vast tunnel network in the Gaza Strip that remain a threat in Israel's eyes. And how will Israel deal with that remaining contingent of fighters? And there's still Hamas leadership left as well. So all of those things mean that the war that's been going on for a year between Israel and Hamas is probably going to continue for some period of time. And then the second front that's been opened up with Hezbollah, that's going to be even more dangerous for both sides. Hezbollah is far more capable than Hamas. And even though Israel has hit Hezbollah very, very hard, to include killing the former Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah, Hamas has more fighters, more capability, more inventory, and is spread out over a larger region than even Hamas and the Gaza Strip. And again, that campaign's only into its now second month. So I think this state of conflict on Israel's borders or in the Gaza Strip, that's going to continue for at least the next several months, if not longer.
Javed Ali, thank you so much for your time.
All right, thank you, Joe.